the pistol behind her head, and I pulled the trigger.
A shocking and disturbing revelation that only gets worse.
Tried to dismember her to put her in containers. It didn't work. It's awful and traumatic. Just thinking about it still haunts me.
A serial killer confesses to the murders of at least 16 people.
And we heard you mention 11 other people in New Mexico, was that right?
Mm-hmm.
We're taking you inside the interrogation room, hearing from the twisted killer himself, Sean Lannon. This is Scandal, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Sierra Gillespie. A confirmed serial killer caught red-handed when he leaves dismembered body parts at an international airport. And that isn't even the end of his killing spree. After that, he goes on to kill at least one more, then confesses to the murders of at least 16 people. And the way he talks about it all is chilling.
Ended up taking his life.
He's so nonchalant when describing the literal murder, and he's no different when discussing the shocking details of the dismemberment.
My son's toy box, the Thomas the Train toy box with the lid. Justin was in that one.
Today's Scandal takes us to Grants, New Mexico, just about 80 miles west of Albuquerque. Back in 2021, that was the home to then 46-year-old Sean Lannon. Sean was a divorced father who was still in contact with his ex-wife, 39-year-old Jennifer, or Jen Lannon. Together, they shared 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy ages 7, 6, and 4. And it's hard to say exactly when things went wrong for the couple, but things got exponentially worse in January 2021. We don't know the exact date, but Sean claims to have walked in on his ex Jen having sex with 40-year-old Justin Mata.
I noticed it was quiet. And the kids opened the door, Jen and Justin and their I knew they were divorced whenever. So ignorant. So I was like, idiots. The kids, grabbed my card. Justin said that they were with his girlfriend. I'm like, you idiot. Your girlfriend, your wife's got my kids, so you your girlfriend.
Justin and Jen's family have since come out and said they were just friends. They did not have a sexual relationship, but according to Sean's confession, they were, and they were having an alleged affair. He also claims his children had been drugged, and that sent him into a tailspin. For their privacy, we've bleeped out the kids' names in this next clip.
Putting on his clothes, comes in like, done this 100 times, being like, they're fine. I'm like, they're not fine, they're not breathing. You do. That's when they drugged them, something in their medicine. Jen didn't think I was being serious. She comes in, looks she grabs she got on the pulse. She's not breathing on the pulse. I'm like, I know. I check there's no pulse. I start saying that she killed the baby. That's it. We conceived it was our Justin ran out the room, out the house immediately. At this point, we're just crying and holding the kids. Jen's adamant she's gonna overdose on the heroin. She kisses the kids on the forehead, all 3 of them. This is, I'll see you in a minute.
This is really confusing. It sounds like Sean is saying that the kids have overdosed on drugs and died. He even says they don't have a pulse. He also says that Jen planned to kill herself as a result of this. But according to reports from the Associated Press, Justin had given the kids drugs to sleep and that was it. And I can confirm this part. No children were hurt or killed in this case. What I can't confirm is Sean's next claim that Jen wanted to intentionally overdose.
I realized she was breathing. She wasn't going to OD. I went in the other room, psyched myself up, repeating that kind of emotionally charged statement of, you killed the so I had enough whatever to do it. Alright. I put the pistol behind her head, and I pulled the trigger. A couple seconds later, I was positioned on the bed too. I put the pistol in my mouth. the handle up. I just slipped past my teeth. My son cried out. I was like, what the do I do now?
Sean doesn't hesitate before explaining what he did to Jen's body.
I had to, we have a vehicle. And John's boyfriend drove in the truck on the car we had. So I pretty much slid her into a storage bin, a long one. The sheets that were around here, the bedding was in the bag, in the box too. A day later, I had to try to dismember her to put her in containers. It didn't work. It's awful and traumatic. Just thinking about it, it still haunts me.
Once again, we don't have an exact date for all of this, but after Jen was killed in January 2021, he moved on to Justin, who he alleged showed him a photo of one of his children in an explicit pose.
He came to the house. So, in the laundry room, connected to the garage. That's where I killed him. Just before I killed him, he offered up a trade. He wanted to know if he could do a shot of heroin before he took his life. So I said, well, if you find any in the vent. So he literally was looking down in the vent. He didn't see it coming. And I shot him in the back of the head. It wasn't something I was proud of. He's a pretty tall dude. I had to dismember him at some point, a day or two later. It disgusted me. It was gross. I had to work up the nerve just to move his body. So there's so much blood. That's why I had to pull the floor up in that room.
When you got Justin over there, was this shortly after? Like how long between the time that you shoot Jennifer, that you shoot Justin?
It was at least a week.
Okay.
Took a while.
How did you get him to come over?
I was baiting as if I was Jennifer on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you thought he was to meet Jennifer?
Yeah. So I've been dating since a long time ago.
Sean says it took him about 2 hours to dismember Justin's body, all while his kids were sleeping. But even then, he wasn't done killing. His third victim from January 2021 was 21-year-old Matthew Miller, another one of Jen's friends who Sean claims came over a week later to sell her drugs.
So then I had the three of them. Finally, that kid comes over, William or Matthew, whatever his name is, comes over with his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
She looked like she was like 12 years old. And they shouldn't hurt anyone, they don't have to. So he's like, they're looking for money for anything. And I'm like, I'll give you a food card. I was like, just take like $40. And I was like, all I need is later in the week, give me a ride to get some water. Without electric or no water. So one of those times he came back, he didn't have Felicity. And that's when I shot him in the back of the head. So I asked him about the thing with my son. He said that it wasn't his idea, and I was like, what do you mean it wasn't his? You have an erection in the picture, like, you can't force someone to have an erection in your child, man. I shot him in the garage. So he was walking, he was in front of me, he was looking at some of the fine china, he wanted to hawk it or something. Heading back in towards the house. The kids were in the far back bedroom. When the door was locked anyway, but so I set up a barricade. Just with all the moving stuff so that they couldn't come out. He didn't know it was coming. Put it up to the back of his head, pulled the trigger. It's disgusting. Again, fell right there on the floor. I stepped over, checked the kids. Took like another day or two to figure out how to put him in something. It's pretty disgusting.
And you said Matthew was shot.
Yeah.
Did you do anything else to him?
Dismember, not to put him in a container.
Right. But did you do anything before the dismemberment and after the gunshot? Like, did you beat him or anything like that? No. Okay. Just gunshot.
Yeah, at some point, like, to stop the gurgling, I hit him in the head with a hammer.
Matthew?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing that he was dead, but his body was still, this guy's autonomic system. So.
Gotcha.
But no, I didn't do anything in torture him.
What was going through your mind while you're sitting down there and the bodies were in Albuquerque?
I honestly figured that they would find them and put them in broad daylight, right on the road, inside the thing. But I figured at some point they'd find them and be charged. That's exactly what they meant.
After murdering 3 people, Sean needed a plan for what to do with their bodies.
Okay, so now you've got all the totes.
Finally got all 3 of the bodies outside the house, in the yard, take them out the back. Take the slider door around the backside, put them underneath this tree, and like the grill and all that stuff, blockading them in. Because we still lived in the house, cleaned up what I could.
At first, Sean hides the bodies in bins at his home, and this detail is extra disturbing.
Okay, so now you've got all the totes. Does he say anything to you about it? Like, because I mean, straight up with you. Like, are they? Does it smell at this point? Because now it's been a few weeks, right?
There is some. Obviously, it's been a minute.
Yeah.
It's been a long minute, so yeah, it does.
Okay. He doesn't say anything to you about that.
He stays in the front of the truck. I did all the transferring.
Okay. So all straight from the should reach straight to the back of his. How did you like keep all of it in place? Because I mean, it's gonna slide around. Aren't you a little concerned about that, right?
I wedged everything in tight. One of the things was loose on the top though, like sitting there. I was like, slow the down, man. Like, my there. Like, so there was that.
Okay. And you said did you weight it down at all just to keep the?
I wedged, like put some this and that, like stuff of ours, but I mean,
What was loose?
just one box. Like in a storage bin.
Can you describe them?
Like a storage bin you buy at Walmart with a lightish bluish color. The little handles that clip on. Wasn't most of them. There was a toy box. My son's toy box, the Thomas the Train toy box with the lid. Justin was in that one.
All 3 victims are reported missing in January, but there isn't enough evidence for police to arrest Sean yet. Getting antsy, he decides to move the dismembered bodies again.
And then, as I pack up the stuff, I'd take stuff to use one of my friend's trucks, take it to storage, the kids in the front seats with me, and then pick up at the storage containers.
And that leads to the 4th victim, 60-year-old Randall Apostolon, who was murdered in February 2021.
Pulled in right there, we got in a fight. I killed him in the front seat. He was in the driver's seat. I hit him 2 or 3 times with my hands. I flipped the key to dissolve position, and then proceeded to daytime, the same day I got picked up. People were, no one happened to see anything. At some point my hand got sore, I hit him with a hammer. Blood was splattered. Came around, I literally got out, cleaned the windows, put something over them, flipped them to the drivers, from the drivers to the passenger. It's pretty disgusting. It's a huge puddle underneath the truck coming out the side door. Time to clean that up too. Position everything in the back of the truck. And then move the truck from the back end to the front street right near Gibson.
So tell me, this may sound kind of self-explanatory, but why kill Randall? Like, what was the thought process?
He was gonna make me take the stuff out of the vehicle. Trying to get me, but he could keep it for another $300. Like, fleecing me for the money. Came down to a decision.
Did you know what was in the totes?
Mm-hmm.
You did?
Yeah. He did.
What makes you say that?
We read his, when we were looking at where he said or whatever. He was on one side of the truck and I was on the other. He slid one of the little, just touch it, they pop right up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think death has a smell that you're not going to forget anytime soon. Couple it with willing to pay more money to move the truck, you know what I mean? Like, he was aware. So that's when he was like, it's going to cost you more. And I'm like, I'm gonna have more, and I'm not until my unemployment clears. So,
Did he ever explicitly confront you with what he thought was in there?
he said he was gonna get bodies or something in there. So I ended up getting in a fight. I took his life to use his truck.
You killed him to use his truck?
Yeah, the fact he was fleecing me for that, you could do it for $300, but you couldn't hold it for the $150 I gave you. So yeah, I killed him to use his truck. Sorry.
How did it feel?
Horrible. Pretty horrible.
All the while, Sean still has his kids to think about.
I knew I was living on borrowed time at that point, so I needed to get my kids somewhere safe back home. So I continued with packing everything up. All the while still baiting Justin Mata. He's responsible for the drugging and doing that to my kids. It took like a week.
So what does Sean do next? He takes all the dismembered bodies and leaves them behind at the Albuquerque International Airport.
I knew at some point he was going to get caught. I just wanted my kids back home. So I took them, put them in broad daylight. I took them to the airport the day before. And I positioned them. Just everything was the same. Secured the vehicle, nothing obvious. And then I took I believe it was an Uber. I took it home, right to the Pearl. The next day we flew out. And I'm waiting on time. At some point they would find the bodies at the airport in the box.
On March 5th, 2021, the dismembered bodies are recovered at the airport, but by then it's too late. Sean is already on his way to commit the next murder, this time in New Jersey. This happened just days later, on March 8th, 2021. Sean claims that the victim, 66-year-old Michael Dabakowski, allegedly molested him as a child.
So when I came home, the last thing on my list was the man that molested me as a child, my big brother. Big brothers, big sisters, whatever. Yeah, they got molesters too. I wanted the pictures back. He didn't want to give me the pictures, so I started beating him. Then he gave me the pictures. It took his life. So, I'm proud of that. I'm proud of any of it. I did finally intend on making it back to finish 10 Lemos. Kind of sad that I didn't have the opportunity.
Yeah.
Sean is finally arrested on March 10th, 2021 in Missouri, driving Michael's car. He's taken into custody, and that's where we get these police interviews from.
And again, I hate to kind of, I'm kind of a straightforward kind of guy compared to some of the others who, Justin and everybody with Randall. How did that feel compared to everybody else?
It was awful. Yeah. I'm taking no pleasure in that. It was disgusting. Responsible for that. I didn't take any pleasure in hurting anybody. I never did. I'm sure it doesn't make any sense, but anyway. The only time I did it was when I felt I had to. So, but he was always fair and kind to Jen. Most other people would take advantage.
Off camera, Sean confesses to murdering 11 other people too, bringing his total to 16 alleged murders.
And we heard you mention 11 other people in New Mexico, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
What part?
And their bodies are in the, where the mountain goes up? Around Grants. Between the, what was that? East and westbound. Some of them were dropped in there. Some I literally went into, I took the exit to view the Malpai, dropped some in there.
Malpai?
Malpai.
Malpai?
M-A-L-P-A.
The lava tubes, lava.
Okay.
And how did you, straight up, how did you kill those people?
In the end, I didn't have a pistol and a rifle or anything like that. So the first 2 or 3, a fight ensued. One of them got shot with their own gun. There were 2 with a knife from our kitchen. And then, in the end, a pistol. Usually their own.
And what did you use to get them out to these places?
Their own vehicles.
Their own vehicles? Where Like, describe how that all goes, because Malpais is kind of a big area, right?
Yeah, so I put them in their own vehicles, drive them out. Yeah, friggin', really remember dragging. I put a tarp down, a couple tarps because they wear out quickly. I hooked the bottom like it was a canoe, and so their feet would come out the bottom, and I just drag it off up in the hole. It'd be a tube or a ditch or whatever. And then the vehicle, I'd literally just take the vehicle somewhere like offside the road, keys in it, running. Someone would take the vehicle. I'd go back a day later. Vehicle's never there.
How do you get home though, usually?
I just walk home. I always put the vehicles in the same pretty much area, right around Grants, right around that exit 85.
Aren't you worried though? I mean, are you walking along the highway? Are you taking side roads? I mean, aren't you worried about people seeing you walking down from wherever you dropped off the key or dropped off the key?
No. I literally, when I popped out of the car, I always have like running sneakers on and like look like I'm supposed to be there.
Okay.
Like, so I didn't broad daylight.
That statement is so chilling. I will note that Sean Lannon has not been charged with any of those 11 other murders. He's just confessed to them. These are the last things he has to say about all of that.
And so the other 11, you said started about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago? And you disarmed them from guns, and you said knives?
Knives, yeah, whatever. At some point I had like almost like a pickaxe, but it was more of a pick. It swung like a pickaxe, but
And so, like, if you had to think back, like how many out of the 11 were shot and how many were stabbed, and like if you can elaborate on any of that.
2 were shot.
2.
Yeah, it was 2.
And then how many were stabbed?
Pretty much the rest of them went out that way.
The rest of them. So 9. Anything you want to get off your chest before we leave?
I think I got it all.
Feel better?
No.
Was it a burden to hold it in?
Yeah, it's just hard to live with.
In October 2022, Sean pleaded guilty to Michael Dabakowski's murder out of New Jersey. He was sentenced to 35 years in prison before he was extradited to New Mexico to face the other charges. In May 2024, he pleaded guilty to the murders of Jennifer Lannon, Justin Mata, Matthew Miller, and Randall Apostolon. For those murders, he received 4 consecutive 15-year sentences. That means he will serve out the 35-year sentence in New Jersey before his 60-year sentence in New Mexico even begins. Wow, this is a really tough one to stomach. I mean, the details are so difficult to talk about, but I do still have quite a few questions. So let's bring on today's expert guest to talk them through. It's friend of the show, retired detective and former chief investigator, Lisa Miller. Lisa, it's so great to see you as always. Thanks for stopping by Scandal today.
Thank you, Sierra. It's really nice to be here again.
So I was telling you before we started recording, I love talking to you because you have so much expertise. And with a case like this, I just got to dig into your brain. I mean, to start, just the fact that there's a serial killer involved. It's not something you hear about every day. I mean, what is it that makes somebody a serial killer?
Well, a legal and technical definition is that it has to be 2 or more killings. There has to be usually this cooling off period. We have, like in this case, we have different locations, and there's also period of days between the first 3 killings, even more time before he kills the 4th individual, and then even a little more time in states away, he kills person number 5 in this case.
Yeah, there really is. I guess I would say that's kind of a cooling off period, so to speak, because the time frame between all of these is very interesting to me. Once we see an interrogation, he says he didn't like killing, but then went on to kill again and again after the initial 3. So I guess let's talk about that. The fact that this happened over the course of some time. I mean, why would it take so long for investigators to kind of clock this guy?
Well, there's some challenges when you're putting together a case like this. And one of the main challenges in this specific case is the fact that there was no bodies found early on, so police were actually on to Mr. Lannon. They actually even called him in and started asking some questions about the disappearance, because at the point when police were intersecting with Lannon, they had 3 missing persons. These individuals had been reported missing. One vehicle had been found as abandoned, belonging to one of the deceased. But suspecting that there was a killing and knowing legally, meeting that burden of proof that's even required for arrest is 2 separate things. So police in a nobody homicide, which is what they suspected they had in the early stages, they had to work carefully, and it's hard to build the evidence needed.
It's I think you're right here, because we as viewers who are just, consuming true crime content, we're like, okay, wait, these people are missing. It kind of seems like this guy's the one. It kind of seems like they probably have been killed. Why are there no arrests? But to your point, investigators, detectives, whoever is covering this case has to make sure that they're following protocol, because we want to make sure all of the evidence that they collect can later be used in court, which thankfully we did see in this case. They want to, keep an eye on this guy, but of course collect the evidence legally, Mirandize him if they talk to him, all of those things. So thank you for pointing that out, because sometimes, I can be so impatient where I'm like, let's go, let's go, let's go. But again, when it comes to court, we want to make sure we got it all in line. So the next step, where I guess investigators found their first set of like major clues, is at the airport of all places. Not what you'd expect to find at the airport. Okay, can you just give me your initial reactions to finding these dismembered bodies at the airport?
Right on the face, that's a stunning discovery, correct? However, when we're taking a look at it from a distance, it's actually not a bad place to store some bodies. If you're taking a look at where to discard bodies, and that was a big challenge, and that's one of the most interesting things to me about this case, is the concealment, the logistical challenges and efforts that Lannon made to hide these bodies. But he finally found the place. He put the storage bins containing some of the dismembered bodies in a truck. The last person he killed in New Mexico, he put that body in that gentleman's truck. And then he left them at an airport where people park for lengthy amounts of time. There's a lot of comings and goings. People aren't necessarily standing around vehicles. They're hurrying off to their shuttles to catch their next flight. So that bought him some time, and that time allowed him to leave the state.
And what's so sad about all of that is he was able to leave. He flew to New Jersey, and then there was another murder in New Jersey after that. It's like this guy could not be stopped. But before we talk about New Jersey, I got to go back to New Mexico, because something I can't get past in this case. First of all, when I saw the headline of serial killer, I want to cover this case. I want to know what's going on for somebody to be dubbed a serial killer and, fit the requirements is really staggering. So we got that, number one. Number two, whenever we talk about dismemberment, to me personally, I think it adds a level of depravity to the case, because killing someone, I don't even know. I couldn't even wrap my brain around doing something like that. But then after they're dead, to dismember their bodies, which he did to multiple, just the logistics of that. Let's talk about that. The fact that this is like hard backbreaking work to have to do, to put them in totes, to carry them from one place to the next. What are your thoughts about that part?
Well, a lot of times we do. We look at that, we see the grotesqueness, the nastiness of cutting up a body. However, we got to think about it a little differently. TV shows us that, there's a level there of depravity, there's a psychological element to dismemberment. However, sometimes it's not necessarily a psychological motive. It's, like I mentioned earlier, a logistical motive. Maybe they're trying to delay identification of the bodies. They need to move and hide these bodies. It's a problem. And that's what happened in this case. We have the first murder, a domestic homicide, if you will. And then we have a reactive murder. He had to get rid of his ex-wife's friend, so he kills that person. So there's the relational murder. And then he's got these 3 bodies now because he lures another friend, the third murder, over. So now he has 3 bodies what to do with them, right? That's a real problem. And keep in mind, there's children involved in this case also. These two, the Lannons had 3 children together. So he has to do something with these bodies. It turns into a problem he's trying to solve. And every time he tries to solve a problem in this case, he's creating more problems and more witnesses, more evidence.
And you're right, that's what led to the 4th murder, because he murdered those 3 people right in a row, what you talked about, the initial and the 2 reactive. Then after that, he finds this 4th man who is helping him, with the storage, with the truck to move the bins, all of this stuff. And when it sounds like this man, Randall was his name, kind of catches wind of it, he kills this guy too. So that's 4. Now, how do we make the jump from killing those people? I mean, I guess if I'm putting myself like logistically in his brain, I can kind of understand how he was like, I feel like I have to kill this guy. Obviously, it's never okay to do that, but that's kind of what was going through his mind. However, how do we make the jump from New Mexico then to New Jersey, where he's going back and kills somebody who he alleges sexually assaulted him as a child? I mean, at that point, is he like, well, I already killed 4, I might as well kill 5? I mean, like, what do you think was going on in his brain?
It's hard to know exactly what the rationality isn't like you and I sitting here talking when someone engages in
Yeah.
not one killing, but multiple killings like this. But it's my understanding from reporting that he had a beef from childhood with the man in New Jersey. And it may be something is, all right, I'm eliminating problems in my life. This man back in the day was a big problem from me, so I'm going to eliminate this problem too. It could be as simple as that.
I think you said it very well there, where you said it's not the way you and I think. I mean, because I'm trying from an outsider's perspective, trying to understand why he would do these things, what was going on in his brain. But there's a huge difference between you and I, our viewers, and somebody who would actually carry out these just depraved crimes, which is what we're talking about today. And I guess let's talk about the policing side of all of it, because we have New Mexico, as we talked about. Then we've got New Jersey involved in the mix. Does that make things more difficult? Because, I mean, first of all, the time zone difference, they're very far away from each other. All of these units are kind of searching for the same guy. How does that work? Does it logistically make it more difficult?
It delays things. I mean, policing in this day and time, we have great communications with one another. However, when you have someone that flies states away and then a murder happens, it takes time to put the pieces together. It took time for New Jersey, when they start investigating the murder that occurred there, to understand who that suspect might be. And then once they develop a suspect, to reach out to authorities in New Mexico and go, hey, do you know this guy? And they're like, yes, we do, and we're looking for him. Do you know where he is? So there are some challenges with the logistics. However, communication's well, and it delays things. And as we see in this case, it delayed things a bit. However, at the end, the police end up catching the bad guy.
Yeah. I was reading some interviews out of the New Jersey side of things, because you're right. When they first they had a murder in New Jersey, their initial thought isn't like, hey, it could be this guy from New Mexico. They're thinking like, what's going on? Is it a neighbor? Is it a significant other? What is it? And then you're right. They had great communication and were able to get him in New Jersey and in New Mexico. And this question I have been excited to ask you. So throughout this entire episode, we feature little clips from his interrogation, because he does sit down with detectives and kind of lays it all out and fesses up to everything and explains everything. So let's say this is your job, Lisa, that you've got this guy. He was wanted in New Mexico. He was wanted in New Jersey. He's arrested in Missouri, of all places. We get this guy in, think he's a serial killer. What are you asking him right away when you're in the interrogation room?
Well, the first thing I want to do, and when I go into an interrogation room with anyone, is establish a little bit of rapport. I mean, you don't go in cold with an individual and just start asking them the hard questions. And then when you start getting the rapport built, you just start asking, okay, so tell me about this. I've got 4 bodies here in New Mexico. We know there's a body in Jersey. You ask an open-ended question and just say, what can you tell me about what happened? Okay, and then what happened? And you start asking open-ended questions, and then you let them talk. And you lock them into these first statements, whatever they're going to say. And then you counter them if things they say that don't fit with the facts, you counter them. But you want to keep actually as interesting or maybe as crazy as it might sound to the audience. You want to have a conversation. It's not the old, you tell me what you did, I know what you did, blah blah blah. It's not a hard talk. It's more conversational. And I've only talked to one serial killer in my career. However, it was a very quiet conversation, very similar to what you and I are having now, as he's relaying to me how he killed, why he killed, things like that.
Okay, I gotta ask you more about that, because if I'm sitting across the table from somebody who's a known serial killer, I think my mind, I don't even know what, it might go blank. I am known for talking and asking questions. I might be like suddenly for the first time at a loss of words. And I guess I wonder, when you're in that situation, how does it feel? I mean, are you judgmental of this person? Are you trying to separate that and compartmentalize because you've got to do your job and get the facts out? I mean, what is going through your mind personally?
Oh no, it's not a position of judgment. If you're sitting across from any offender, whether it's a killer or any other type of offender, if they sense that you're sitting there in judgment of them, that's a very quick way to shut them down. It's you let your curiosity and your professionalism take over. You know the questions that you need. By this time that you're sitting across the table from the bad guy, you know the facts of your case.
Yeah.
So you just want to engage them. You want to see what they're going to say. And Siri, with your professionalism, you would have all the right questions. It comes to you. Like I said, you by this time you know your case, you know the facts, you know what you need. So you ask nicely.
Yeah.
You really there are times to be assertive and firm in an interview. But if you're too harsh, too threatening, here's a reality that a lot of people don't think about. A judge may throw out some of these statements if you're too threatening because of the duress issue. They may find that you have pressured too hard and that person was no longer feeling comfortable, that freedom, you're violating their rights. But the conversational tone I learned early in my career, it gets a lot more from the offender than that hard sell interview.
Yeah, you're right, because that's what we talked about earlier. We want to make sure that all the evidence collected can eventually be used in court. So we don't want this to be, that his confession was given under coercion or duress, as you pointed out. And we did see that. I will give props to the investigators in this case. They were very much like, okay, so then what happened? The curiosity kind of is what they led with. And I mean, they were asking, you're right, all of the questions that we would want to know, not judgmental, but kind of like, wait, why did you do that? Or logistically, where did you get it? Walmart? Did you go to Target? Did you whatever? Like all of those things, and getting all of the facts. And that's what eventually in this case led to a conviction. I mean, he pled guilty in New Jersey and New Mexico. So thankfully some form of justice. And I guess that's my last question for you in this case. I mean, 5 people were murdered at the hands of one man, which is really hard to stomach. But do you think that there was any form of justice in this case?
Oh, justice is hard, right? If you lose a loved one, and in this case, 5 people lost someone they love and they care about and were important in various people's orbits. So, you can ask the big question, what is justice, and enough years in prison ever enough? But then you have to look at it a little more detached and legally also. In New Mexico, at the time that this case was adjudicated, second-degree murder, which he is initially charged with first, it's very, very happens all the time that a first-degree murder charge is reduced down to a second-degree murder. But second-degree murder only carried a penalty of 15 years in prison in New Mexico at the time of this case. The sentence has been increased a bit now, but the judge did one thing, and judges don't always do this, but he did these sentences, the 4 murders in New Mexico, they were sentenced consecutively. So that gave the 60-year sentence in New Mexico. And then New Jersey has a special thing where, violent crimes, they don't reduce those sentences very much. It's not like a 50-50 thing like you see in some states. So he is serving a substantial amount of time in Jersey also. Here's what we have to consider when we're looking at this. Trial's not a given, and jury verdicts aren't a given. And we're seeing, like the case out in the Carolinas with Murdoch, right? They secure a guilty verdict, and here they are. They're going to be going down the road of this again. So verdicts, trials aren't guaranteed. And when you have somebody coming in pleading guilty and you have a secure sentence where they're going to be sitting and serving, there is a form of justice in that. It may not be as long as we think someone deserves, but people don't have to testify at trial. You don't lose witnesses. You don't lose evidence. There is some justice in it.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, it's hard to put a number on something like this, but thankfully it does seem like there's a very large sentence. He fessed up to all of it. He is honest about it, pleaded guilty. And so you're right. We're not going through the witnesses, the question mark, the verdict, the deliberation. Thankfully he is behind bars. And I mean, this story is a really complicated one, a tough one to talk about. So Lisa, thank you so much for coming on Scandal and walking us through it today.
Thank you, Sierra.
And that's where today's episode of Scandal leaves us for now. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, connect with me on social media. You can find me on places like Instagram at Sierra Gillespie. Thanks for watching today's episode of Scandal. As always, I'm your host, Sierra Gillespie, and I'll see you next time.